whatever kind of industry you're in, whatever organization you're in, the person that shows up and gets to work, no matter if they're the greatest or not, but the person that has the will not to stop, that wants to show up, you can teach everything else on the planet to anybody that's willing to listen and learn. But the person that comes in and sits down and gets to work, you can't teach that. You'll never beat it.
Welcome to For the Record, a Wayne County Chamber of Commerce podcast, where real conversations meet real impact. We dive into the stories, insights, and experiences that shape our world, bringing you expert voices, thought-provoking discussions, and a fresh perspective on the topics that matter most. For the Record is proudly sponsored by Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, TA Loving Company, Goldsboro Builder Supply, PDM Professional Data Management, UNC Physicians Network, Alta Foods, and Butterball. We're grateful for their support and making these conversations possible. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
All right. Hey, for the record, I'm with Aaron Penny from Lumos, and I'm also with his wonderful daughter, Ava. So this is a surprise. It's certainly great to see you both here. How's it going?
It's going well. Great to see you. Great to be in beautiful Wayne County. Certainly great to be at the Chamber. We appreciate the opportunity here. And Ava's pretty excited, I feel like, to join me today. She finds a neat, unique way to get into the better parts of my career at some point. I don't know how that's happened, but she is pretty good at it.
I absolutely love it. I'm so glad she's here with us today. And certainly, it's interesting. So kind of wanted to be here anyway, right, Ava?
Very much so.
Oh, and it's so good. I love that. That's one of the things, these For the Record podcasts, really, we're highlighting your dad because he's one of the best leaders that we have in this community. And now we get a chance to have you with it. And that's going to be a big part that we talk about is your family and how you're able to balance those things. And I think it's great. But I do want to start off right off the bat. Before we jump over to you, and I just want you to just tell us a little bit about what you do. I want to say this right off. Engage, you've known everybody so far who's come in. But it's really cool that Lumos has really jumped straight in to this community with you and Ryan. And I'm new to the Chamber, but one of the things I want to applaud you right off on the bat on is developing great relationships. And Lumos has jumped in and they have gotten an opportunity to meet all the Chamber members. You have been just a wonderful, wonderful partner. And you have gotten out into the community and made a difference. So I do want to let you know, and I know you know Gage, as soon as you guys came in, you've been around with him. You've gone even to different states with him to work together. Thank you for that. And would you say that that's really been kind of the bread and butter of your career is relationships?
100%. I think everything that I do is 100% about the relationships and the people around us. I think it's just serving is what we are called to do. And when you look at a community and you have an opportunity to serve, in any capacity, you lean into that. And I think that it makes sense. And Lumos feels the same way. Our company is, we talk about all the time that we're in the business of changing lives. Mm-hmm. And so you do that by connecting, and you do that by relationships. And so it's awesome to hear it and get that. You don't always get a chance to see it, the work come back to you in that regard. But then when you sit down in rooms like this, it's a humbling moment when you know that even when you're not in the community or you're someone else working, the works that you do are reciprocal when it's actually happening behind the scenes and you get those emails, those phone calls, those follow-ups, and hey, this has made a difference. That's pretty awesome.
No, well, you've put an investment, your company's put an investment, but you and along with Ryan, who's a key member of our community as well, you've put that commitment in. And it's very important for the folks in Wayne County, to have great service and to be able to be connected. And it's absolutely vital to the connectivity and the fabric of our businesses and our personal lives, right? And so thank you for that. But if you don't mind, tell us a little bit more about what you do, Ryan. Or, I'm sorry, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, Aaron Penny, Senior Director of Business Development for Lumos. Just real quick plug for Lumos. We're a 100% fiber to the home internet company. We have very humble beginnings. We began as a family-owned and operated telephone company that actually originated in Virginia named Intellos. They formed and bought a couple of other small companies, and they merged with another family-owned and operated business out of High Point, North Carolina, named North State Communications. Fast forward a few years, and they decided that they wanted to get more into the residential game. And so we owned a carrier backhaul company, enterprise business. We sold that off to Cox Communications and focused on communities like Wayne County to go and serve. Originally at the time, we were looking at around 1.1 million homes to serve. I joined Lumos just about 3 years ago as part of the beginning part of that endeavor to scale. At that time, we were only operating in 2 states. They had ambitions to look around 7 or 8 states, 1.1 million homes. And then in April of 24, we announced a joint venture with T-Mobile. And T-Mobile was looking to get it into the fiber to the home game. That venture closed in April of this year. And since our goal for passings has more than tripled with the same timeline. And so we've gone from 2 states in 3 years ago to now we're active in 10 states, and we're looking at scaling even greater.
Wow.
And so a lot of those efforts, you'll actually see that here in Wayne County as we wrap up a lot of the project here. But you'll start to see the T-Fiber brand on the billboarding and a lot of things we do. And, I'm excited about it because we're just going to lean in even more. It just, excuse me, it gives us a little bit more resource and a little bit more opportunity to get deeper with those relationships, serve the community, and provide even more value to a community that we love.
Man, that's awesome. And so it's interesting. So you've only been there 3 years.
Yeah, just under.
So just under 3 years. And I don't know, Ava, if you knew, but your dad was the 2024 Innovator of the Year for Lumos. Is that correct?
That is.
That's pretty amazing. So you jump right in and then you automatically make a difference. And when I was reading through that, again, it talked about relationships. It talked about being able to get out into the organization. And I will tell you what, I think in innovation, the greatest innovation is relationships. It's networking. You can come up with a great idea of doing things, but the connectivity between individuals is one that often gets lost. And so not surprised that you won that award. But with all that and where you're currently at, let's go back to almost a time where we're Ava. And Ava, I think this is what's special with having you here because your daddy started off somewhere. And so if you don't mind, if you can start it off, where did it all begin for you?
Yeah, so we'll take it way back. I'm born and raised in Greenville, North Carolina, Pitt County native, lived in Eastern North Carolina my entire life. My grandfather had a small refrigeration repair company. I remember as a child, I was kind of thinking through some of the conversation today, and I remember as a child spending a lot of time around my grandparents, and every day my grandfather would come into the driveway around 12 o'clock. My grandmother would have lunch prepared. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, Price is Right would come on. She'd get up and she'd shuffle into the kitchen, sit down and start patting out biscuits. Every blue moon, if you bit into one and there was a piece of cheese in there, it was going to be a good day.
Oh, that is a good day.
But she would actually cook lunch. He would come in, wash up, have lunch, spend a little bit of time together, and then he would go back out. And then what was ever left over from lunch, they would warm that up, and that was their dinner. And so being around family from a young age, I've just always kind of had that fabric. And so I've been very fortunate. My mother raised me. I was actually raised by a single mom. She remarried when I was 10 years old. But seeing her work ethic and just watching how she kind of just managed her life and what she did, I think from a young age, it started to get me focused on always forward and bigger. Mm-hmm. And, being in Pitt County, I went to D.H. Conley High School, got out, started going to community college, met Ava's mother. We were married in 2009. Ava was born in 2014. Then looking back and, all of a sudden I'm 44 years old and you think to yourself, man, what happened? Sometime in there, I actually started working for a living and then bills come. And I think day to day, we just put our head down and we start working. But 21 years in telecom, but Pitt County is all where it started out.
Man, it's amazing. And so now Ava, so as your daddy, it's awesome to think of where he came from and where he's at now. And one of the things I'd ask you right off the bat is, what are you most proud of your daddy?
That would be a hard decision, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be letting us get a dog, for sure.
Well, no, that is a big deal. That is, what kind of dog is it?
A Goldendoodle.
So does it teach you responsibility, though?
Kind of, not really though, because he always ends up feeding her.
Oh, does he? But I'll tell you what's neat about it is you're able to provide. And that's the wonderful thing is when when you're sitting there and you're thinking, holy cow, you're getting that because you're taking care of business. You're doing your schoolwork, you're being respectful, and I can already see that with you. And when that happens, great things come around, and fathers and mothers are able to reward you with a dog. And I know I had a bunch of dogs growing up too, and I'll never, ever, ever forget them. But I also never forget where they came from. And, that was from the love from my father and my mother and thinking about me because you wanted the dog, didn't you? Well, and you are a great provider with that. And so I just love having that here. But when I think about your daddy and I think about who has poured into you, it's been a lot of folks. I love listening to the story about The Price is Right because, you can go back in time. And Gage, I don't know if you remember The Price is Right? Yeah. Man, that was a great show. Used to always get fired up. I was always doing the numbers too, like, 100, 500, when they're trying to do that to see how much money something cost. Right. I was always saying $1. Because I always thought somebody overbid it, and I would always get excited if I potentially would have won it. But it reminds me of my grandma. It reminds me of my mom and dad. And so when you were growing up, was there somebody that really poured into you that right now you can still think about if it wasn't for their influence, that maybe you're not where you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, off the bat, I would say my mother. She's just, she's an incredible woman. She retired from the hospital there in Greenville. She was there 30 plus years. She was in the accounting department over there. And I just remember when we were young, her mother had fell ill and was sick. And so she had 2 young children at home. She had a mother at home that was ill. And then, third and fourth quarter, they would have year end. And so she was working, 50, 60 plus hours a week. But we still had a warm meal every night. I never went without. She just always found a way. And I never heard her complain. I never heard her talk in a negative light about a single human. And when you're young, you don't realize the things that could be going on in your life around you. You just take for granted that you have food and shelter and everything's fine. When you get a little bit older and you start to kind of comprehend what actually happened and you reflect back to your adolescence and you see the situation for what it was, your eyes open. And I look back and I think it's just her character, her dignity, the way that she just did what she had to do and executed that. It taught me to never give up and always press forward and everything was going to be okay. And I think that's probably been my single greatest, influence in my life. I also had a great uncle that was in South Carolina. Every year I was fortunate enough to spend a few weeks with him. And he had a small house on a lake. And from a small child all the way up until he passed away, I would always spend a few weeks every summer with him. He had a few rental properties. We'd ride around and, he would go collect his rent. We would run errands and he would always teach me and just tell me things. And there are certain times in my life now at this age where I have heard myself say things that he said to me or that I picked up from him. And so I would say those 2 are probably my greatest influences.
When you say that with your uncle, getting a chance to ride around with him, get that experience, it reminds me of you 2. It's so great to be able to have her with you. But you had mentioned to us before we went on air about an amazing accomplishment that you've already reached where you and her, it's like you're a team together as you're working on towards really bettering your health. And so can you share that a little bit about you had a desire, a dream, and how Ava's been a big part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I haven't always lived the healthiest of lifestyles. And I think with work and family and responsibilities, we all kind of get to a point of complacency. And I don't want to say lazy because none of us are going to tell each other we're lazy. But at the end of the day, it's an American society and we do live in a world of convenience and now. And so some of the things that are most easily accessible for us is entertainment and food. And I travel a lot for work. And so I just got to a point to where in the mundane rat race of life, it was the ease of consumption of coffee or, fast food or what have you. And I remember last year just thinking to myself, I've really got to get to a better place mentally and health-wise. And I had some coworkers and colleagues that kind of started off in January and they started seeing some immediate results. And I said, hey, I want to join those guys. I'm going to catch up to them. And so with that, I started a health journey and just started being more conscious. I don't really follow a regular diet per se, but started following a little bit more of a regimented watch what you eat, so to speak, or how much. And then I started just getting outside and being active. And Ava loves to be active. She loves to get outside. And so we just started bike rides and walks. And we've got our neighborhood now, we've got it so dialed down that if we want to do a 2-mile trek or a 5-mile trek, whatever it is, we know exactly which routes to take and when to do it. And so we've been doing that now for about 8 months together.
Wow.
And we used to do it some off and on, but we've been very consistent for the last 8 months. And it gives us a chance to talk about things. We get a chance to get healthier together, to see things, see nature, get outside. And she's not in front of a tablet. I'm not in front of a phone. You know, we leave those things behind and just kind of focus and have that time together. And so it's been pretty fun.
Yeah. Have you enjoyed it as well, Ava?
I have a lot, especially when we bring our dog with us.
The Goldendoodle. Well, see, now who holds the dog?
Him. I ride my bike.
It's a big dog. I mean, the Goldendoodle, they're gorgeous dogs. I love it. But I hope you see, and I want to paint a picture because I just think, again, and I'm maybe belaboring it a bit, but it shows what kind of leader you are. You know, that balance wasn't always easy for me. You know, I'm divorced and I had a couple young girls. And when I got divorced, I stayed in the service. And staying in the service ended up taking me away to many different locations and places. And I will tell you, I regret that in the sense that I did not see the girls grow up. And I made a choice. And at that time, I felt it was the best choice. Now, as I get older, I think it's great to be able to reflect and go back and go, was that the best choice? And really only through the grace of God have they developed whom they are now, which I thank the Lord for. But you making that commitment to your daughter, and Ava, I know you'll know it, I think it's the most important, even above Lumos. And I say that because family is the most important. You are building a legacy that I know, Ava, one day you're going to be able to look and say, and I think you do it now, I am so proud of my dad for putting that time in with you. It's super important. I know you know that, right? I'm so glad. And that would make me go to this. How have you been able to balance that lately? So the journey, and that's what all leaders need to know because the time can escape us. I gained a lot of weight too, and I brought that up because I think it's an amazing journey you've been on of discipline, focus, but then you're still juggling everything else. How are you able to do all that?
Yeah. First, I'll go back to one thing you said. When you talk about your daughters, when Ava was young and was in preschool, I had the opportunity to actually take her to preschool and pick her up. So we had that time together when she was very young. Her mother is a kindergarten teacher. And so when Ava started school, she actually would ride to school with her mom every day and then wouldn't get home till 5:30, 6 o'clock when her mother got home. And so for the last 6 years, my time with Ava was either in the evenings or whatever we did on the weekend.
Right.
And so I didn't have a lot of that. And so then now fast forward, she's in middle school because of where we live. It's a different district. Now she goes to school and where we live. And so I'm taking her to school, picking her up. And so some of the things that we do, and I'll circle back to your question, every day when I take her and drop her off, I tell her, I need you to look for the wins today. And there's no problems. There's only opportunities every day. And I tell her that every day. When I pick her up, the first thing I ask her when she gets in the car is what?
What were your wins today?
I love
and
that.
so every single day, if there's not a win, she's going to give me one. The weather, it was nice. It was, you showed up and got me from school, whatever. There's something positive going to come. And so to circle back to what you said, how did you do that? I think it all comes back to intent. I got to a place in my life just through career changes. I'd actually started a business, a security technology company in 2018. Did that for several years. My stepfather fell ill, pulmonary fibrosis, needed a lung transplant. My family went through a remarkable journey for about a year and a half with that. We ultimately lost him, but thanks to the amazing medical staff down at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, he was able to see another birthday, another anniversary, another Christmas, another Thanksgiving. He was a couple of weeks away from passing away when we got there, and I watched him walk into a home with all of his grandkids on the day after Christmas and see them. And so those blessings and those miracles were amazing. But through those ups and downs in life and those losses, you look back and you think to yourself, are you really on your game? And I could be honest enough to say that I was at a place where maybe I wasn't as sharp as I should have been. And I started questioning myself. Same with my health. I started representing our company in new market endeavors. And I remember just seeing some pictures. Maybe it was a place where Gage took videos or pictures and I'm beside my peers. And I'm like, man, I really let myself go. Am I taking myself serious? I asked myself that question. I would challenge that for any leader. Am I taking myself serious? What is the room like when I walk out? What is the room like when I walk in? Well, the first thing that someone notices when you walk in is your appearance. You can control your hygiene and how you dress or your attire. I started thinking about that pretty heavily, and I was honest with myself to say I should be more intentional. And when I did that, I started looking at things beyond just myself. It was, how am I interacting with my peers? How am I handling my obligations, my personal obligations, my professional obligations? And it was really an accountability measure. But I would say the way that I've kind of managed that is 100% being real with myself. Am I being intentional? That changes perspectives.
Well, that's leadership, isn't it? And I know, Gage, I heard you say, yeah, you're absolutely right. That intentionality. And I will tell you, Ava, I'm going to rip off your dad and talk with my daughters that way, because there's never a bad way. Matter of fact, even as you say that, I could ask folks all day long, what are your wins today? Because I'll tell you, there's a lot of times where I don't think that we often focus on those wins. We hover on the losses. And then those end up taking us into a place that we won't see growth unless we're able to overcome or look at those losses, like you were saying, and say, okay, we got to turn those into wins, right?
Yeah.
And has that been a big part, you would say, of your leadership style as well? Let's face it, you're the innovator of the year for one of the fastest growing companies. I see T-Fiber and I see Lumos, powered by Lumos coming. I see your ability to reach out to communities to get those wins. How do you use that in your leadership with those that work with you, your peers, but also subordinates?
So it's amazing. I came up with something we're going to trademark this right here, just so if anybody spins this off, we're going to know where it originated. But
sweet.
I would say, something that I've done, and I did this personally. I'm not an English major. I'm not a highly educated man. I started in the telecom industry, crawling under houses, climbing telephone poles, installing cable and internet, 21 years ago, and have kind of worked my way up through sales and ultimately business development and government affairs. But what I would say to you is there are a couple of words that I used to look at, and I used to think they meant weakness or, created feeling in me. And those words are like ignorance. I used to think that was such a bad word if someone called me ignorant. Now I pray I find myself ignorant. I know that it means lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And if I can find something I don't have the knowledge in fast enough for yet, I can become wiser. And a very wise man that I've always admired and looked up to told me many years ago, the greatest prayer you will ever pray is for wisdom. And so that has stuck with me and I've never forgot it. And so when I think about the word, ignorance, I always think about, how do I get better and smarter faster? And so anytime that I think from a very young age, we all are around folks that it's just natural that when pressure hits you or stressful situation hits, it's the negative side or the negative effects of that hit you. And so it's always the fear that comes out of your mouth first. Mm-hmm. And so it's the things that you don't want to happen, or the worst part about it, I've got to be at work at 7. No, you get to go, somebody else may have a bad day. You could cheer them up, and Sally may change her whole week because you walk in with a latte for her that morning, right? You don't know. And so I think you kind of bring the energy. But when you start talking about leadership, I remember my boss told me we were going to go after all of these new markets. And my job we were such a fast-paced, growing company that was very small, nimble, stacked with talent and amazing people. We just kind of leveraged everybody's talents, and everyone were doing things well beyond the boundaries of the job description. We were just doing what had to be done to get the company growing fast. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've been fortunate to be blessed with is the ability to connect with folks and relationships. And my boss was like, hey, we've got to go into a lot of communities fast. What do you think? And so we started doing it. And so I sat back and I kind of put together a game plan for how we were going to execute this. And when I started looking at the core, no matter how many words I put on the board, no matter how I delivered our pitch, it all came down to people. And so something I've done with Ryan, who's on my team, and some others that have been with us, was I kind of broke down a couple of different things. And I start with exposure. The faster you can become exposed to something, the quicker you can get experience in that, right? The moment you get experience, good, bad, or indifferent, the moment you get experience, you now have a understanding and you have knowledge of that subject. And so now you can actually be an influence in that conversation or that dialogue. And once you get a chance to become an influence, you get a chance to put your fingerprints or your DNA in it, and that's where impact happens. So ultimately for me, something I've always left with our community or our company is wherever we go, we're going to make an impact. And so when we first started this endeavor, we started looking at communities where we could go and be celebrated and not tolerated. And so I
like
take
that.
that into relationships as well, where I go, you want to be celebrated, not tolerated. It's easy to be the internet provider in town because there's only so many. It's
I like
different to
that.
be impactful.
So what was it? So if it's an acronym, what was the
It's two. So it's funny. Ryan's like, I've got 2 eyes and 2 ears, but it's basically exposure, experience, influence, and impact. And I think they lead to each other, right? From what you're exposed to all the way to how you make an impact from it. So exposure,
Absolutely.
experience, influence, impact.
Well, and I think, with exposure, when you think about that, I love that. I've not heard it said like that, but the quicker you're exposed to something, the more comfortable you end up to it, right? There may be an apprehension, especially if you're challenging a young leader that they haven't done something. That exposure is important because now they get comfortable. They build confidence, right? And they start understanding exactly, how it is to be a team. I love that. So we're going to rip that off, Gage. If that's,
Yeah, I mean, it's just pretty
that's
good.
okay, yeah.
But look, we did that with a couple of sales teams that we had. We had a guy that was in sales. We'd give him a goal to go after some stuff. And in the industry he was particularly going after, he wasn't as well versed. And I said, hey, there's some organizations we're going to put you into, and you're going to lock in, and you're going to find a way to get on some of the committees, and you're going to get around the people that are in that industry. And I'll never forget, at first he thought it was like, oh, here's another task I've got to go do for my job. 4 weeks later, he calls me praising the rooms he's in, telling me all the things he's learned. He's becoming and it's all because he was exposed to something that he didn't even know existed. And so exposure is everything.
I think so too. And again, I'm going to turn it to Ava. This exposure for you at the young age of 11 and being right here with your dad, but having that interaction with your dad, I think it is going to make you a really, really amazing young lady. And I would ask you, what are some of the lessons that you've learned right now that you feel have helped you get to where you're at as a young woman?
Well, definitely not to be greedy or not to brag, but also, like we were mentioning earlier, looking for the wins in the day, because you don't want to just say, oh, this thing happened today, and just keep saying on and on about it. You want to keep talking about the good parts of your day.
I love that. And that's true. And that never ends. Even at my age, you've got to look at those great things. And so, man, Ryan, I'll tell you, why do I keep calling him Ryan?
He's a lot better looking for
No,
one. He's a lot better looking guy.
Well, I won't say that at all. But Aaron, I would tell you, it's been a pleasure to actually have you and Ava here. And I think seeing that love that you have for each other, but looking at somebody with leadership like this, you've thrown out a number of nuggets that we're going to add. When this podcast comes out, I think it's going to teach a lot of folks about what leadership takes, especially from your perspective, to come up from where you have. I love the fact that you have the tactical side of the house in this job. You know it. So you know what the folks are doing out there. So you have gone up the ladder to get to the point where where you're at right now. How has that made you so successful as well? Because it seems like, I know for me, I love being able to look at somebody and go, that's my leader, and they have experience, and they have gone through what I've gone. They've walked in my shoes, and that's got to feel good too.
Yeah, I think for anyone I think, first of all, I think everyone is in a position of lead, right? I think everyone is in a position to lead. I think it's even more imperative for people who don't have a title to lead, to be the leader, right? There's a young lady that used to work with me years ago, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. Whatever kind of industry you're in, whatever organization you're in, the person that shows up and gets to work, no matter if they're the greatest or not, but the person that has the will not to stop, that wants to show up, you can teach everything else on the planet to anybody that's willing to listen and learn. But the person that comes in and sits down and gets to work, you can't teach that. You'll never beat it. And so we had a young lady one time that came in. I was in a sales position. This is many years ago. And she started, and we were in a highly transactional business. And we, you'd see that turnover rate from salespeople, coming and going, so many a year. She came in and she was just adamant. She had a drive about her. And I remember one day in particular, she came over, she rolled a chair over by my desk. She sat down with a notepad and a pen. And she said, "What are we doing today?" And I looked at her and said, "What?" She said, "You're going to teach me this business." I leaned in.
Yeah.
She destroyed me with numbers. Like she clocked in, and every week, every month, but she had that desire that she said, she thought enough of me to say, he's paying attention and he knows this. I can learn something. I'm going to go get it. When it comes, your question was,
essentially, having the ability to have gone from the ground floor all the way to where you're at, just climbing that ladder with that experience.
Taking that experience, I think that's where it comes from. So whatever job you're in, whatever industry you're in, if you identify someone, even if it's a competitor, if you identify them and you network and you talk to them, how did you do that? What were the things that stopped you? What were your biggest challenges? How'd you overcome them? That buys you time. The greatest asset on this entire planet is the clock that none of us can see. And so the faster that you can get to a point of resistance or a hurdle, if you surround yourself with the right people and you're vulnerable enough and humble enough to ask and identify where someone has greatness or a skill, I think leaning on that is great. And so many leaders fail to acknowledge someone because of a title. A manager's number one job is remove the obstacle from their team below them. And so my leader and I, the way we conduct our conversations, Ryan, my team and I with Ryan, I want to know, what do you need from me? I need you to hold me accountable that I'm giving it to you. And here's the expectations I have for you. And I'm going to make sure that I'm holding you accountable. And so that constant communication and then giving them exposure for what they can do, I think that's everything. And that just comes with the career behind me.
I could work for you any day. So that's what it's about. Everything you said has nothing to do about yourself. It has all to do about building up others. And that's why that company, that's why you are successful, is because you are about serving others. And you mentioned that right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so I certainly appreciate that. What would you say, and we'll finish up because we got a lightning round here in a second, Ava. I think you're going to like this. What would you say you would like to share with 10-year-old Aaron? If you could go back in time and say, hey, I'd like to share this, or 11-year-old Aaron, because I think this is important, what would you say?
So there's two things. Number one, on the backside of what we just said was, if you can never remove yourself from the algorithm of whatever you're working on, it fails.
Yeah.
Insurmountable, it fails. And so if you don't create something that continues to go with those around you above or wherever, it fails. I would tell myself to find and identify weaknesses in forward as fast as possible and do not look at the sidelines. I think too many times we all look at the sidelines and we get distracted. But if you were constantly looking down the field, that's how you drive the ball. And so I think as an adolescent, I was distracted in very many ways. And if I had just slowed down and focused, things could have been so different in many ways. But I just think paying attention to what's in front and what you can directly impact would probably be my message.
No, I absolutely love that. And that's true. So Miss Ava, as you go, continue to listen. I know you'll continue to listen to your father. He's a great man, but you're a great young lady.
Thank you.
And we're about to find out a little bit about yourself. So it's called the lightning round. We need to come up with something different, Gage, on that one, because this is very stressful for everybody. It's super tough. But all right, I'm going to start off with your daddy. Your favorite rock band?
Metallica.
Favorite singer?
Taylor Swift.
Knew that one. Favorite football player?
Travis Kelce.
There's a trend. Favorite football player?
Oh, Steve Smith, Panthers.
Oh, Stevie Smith. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Is he in the Hall of Fame now? I know Peppers is. He should be if he's not. But what a stud and what a leader. I love watching his clips. Just phenomenal
Steve Smith
guy.
Is great. So you're a Carolina Panthers fan?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I got to be. And that's a true fan when they can't give you a win. So
stick with them.
Still love him.
Bryce looked good at the end of
he did.
Looked good. All right. And this is over to Ava. Favorite movie?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Sandlot or Parent Trap?
Okay. New Parent Trap or Old Parent Trap?
New one.
Okay. The old one is also a classic as well. I encourage you. All right, Dad.
Man, this is hard. I'm an 80s kid. We were talking about movies earlier. I mean, if I go comedy, I'm probably going to go old school.
Okay.
If I go something more serious, it's probably like Casino.
Okay.
Or Goodfellas, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. I know what you're saying on that one. All right. Last one, favorite cartoon.
Oh gosh. Have to go back from when I was little, probably Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
No, I love Mickey Mouse. It makes me laugh when you said when you were little. So Mickey Mouse, fantastic. I don't know if you knew this, but Justin Timberlake was on that. Britney Spears. Wow, this is...
Really?
Yeah. Do you know those names? You do know those names? Oh, sweet. I didn't know if I was dating myself. But yep, all from the old Mickey Mouse Club. So I love Mickey Mouse. Would agree. Favorite cartoon?
I'd say The Simpsons. I'm going to have to lean in on that.
Classic, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe that thing went on for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is so good. So, well, hey, it's a pleasure. I could do this all day long. I want to be honest with you. You know, when folks see this, you're an amazing guy. You're an amazing leader. But from my perspective, this world needs great dads. It just does. It just does. And so thanks for Ava. Ava, thank you for being here. Thanks for loving your dad like you do.
Thank you for letting me be on your podcast.
Yes, ma'am. It's an absolute pleasure. Enjoy walking your dog. Make sure you take care of the dog. A lot of good lessons learned there. And then, Aaron, for me, to you, don't stop doing what you're doing. What you're doing is making a massive impact in your community and throughout. You know, every person that you all have touched here that I've seen and I've talked to is so thankful for you and for Ryan for coming in and being a major part of our community. And so you're part of Wayne County now. So we look forward to having you stop by again and look forward to doing anything we can to help you. Any final words?
No, I mean, I would just say we really appreciate it. It's always good to be over this way. And, what things that we learned in Wayne County, we actually used and have modeled after to go into new markets from the very beginning. And so we really appreciate good or bad feedback, anything that we can do to get better. Wayne County has been very good from the city, the county, business leaders, the chamber, economic development team here. We have just been so fortunate. The Dillard Alumni Association, we were able to do some stuff to connect them to a nonprofit to help get some computers and some skills into the community when we came here. I was just up at Cramden Institute in Durham a couple weeks ago, and they were telling me they were doing another round of train-to-trainers for Dillard, so more folks are getting that access here in Wayne County. And so to see something that we actually launched and did 2 years ago, I guess, Gage, to see that continue on. But we took things that happened right here in little old Goldsboro in Wayne County, and we have modeled some of that, made some revisions, and are taking that multi-states. And so it's been awesome.
Well, use us anytime you need us. We're here to serve.
Yep,
so thanks
awesome.
so much, y'all. Take care.
Thank you.
God bless.